What is consciousness? The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mysteries of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question that has captivated human minds for centuries. Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater? Explore the very fabric of our thoughts. Don't miss a moment. Expand your awareness and tap into the boundless potential that resides within you. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness.
Hello, hello, hello. And yes, welcome to the live stream of consciousness. My name is Michael Zinn, and welcome back if you're coming back, and welcome for the first time. If you're here for the first time, welcome if you're live, and welcome if you're watching the replay. It's a new year. It's 2024. I have rebranded, or I just decided to start naming the episodes from number one again. So my guest today is number one, and I'm just calling it TLOC 2024. It's a new year. It's a new beginning. So I'm excited about that. I see Tim out there in Brazil. Hola, Ninja Kitty. He's saying hello to Ninja, who's out there as well. And I see Grace Grella out there, welcoming my guest Helen and me. I'm going to bring Helen on in just a minute. And I see the Quiet Healer out there. What's up, Janice? Everybody's out there. I feel like this is like Romper Room, and I see Grace, and I see Janice, and I see Tim. I guess that's kind of cool. That's engagement, right? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to engage our audience. So if you're out there, don't be afraid to say hello. Also comment on YouTube. That helps the show grow. I really would love the show to grow this year and invite some even more fascinating guests, people who are out there spreading the message of the collective consciousness and energy and all of that stuff. I've been writing to some interesting people. I have some cool guests coming up, but I'm super excited to start the year off with a guest who is actually a friend of mine. So you guys have seen me talk to friends who are psychic mediums and talk to new people who I don't know, who do all sorts of stuff. Well, I'm talking to one of my friends to start off the year, somebody who's been listening to the show recently. You guys might have seen her in the chat. Helen Wagner is her name, and she is a artist and a designer who creates jewelry and other items, art items that are made from resin and natural items and stone. She likes to work in that realm, and we'll talk more about that with her. Anyway, I think I've taken care of all of the business, right, for telling you who I am and what I'm trying to do and trying to grow the show. So let's get into 2024. I hope everybody had a good holiday. And let's welcome my first guest of the year and good friend, Helen Wagner. What is up, Helen?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Welcome to the live stream.
Thank you.
I know we've been talking about it for a while, and
yeah, I just wasn't ready yet.
Finally well, you're ready now, and we're making it happen. 2024 is your year. You're actually number one in 2024 on the live stream of consciousness. How do you like that?
It's cool.
That's got to be significant in some way, right? I just deemed it significant, so it must be. So I hope you had a good new year. You're looking mighty pixie-rific.
Thank you. It was good. It was quiet. It's always
quiet
here. Yeah.
I like a quiet new year. Me and Janice spent a quiet night. Just I don't think we even were able to stay up. We took a nap and then got up again before midnight so we could just say Happy New Year to each other.
This was the first year everybody in the house was actually awake for New Year's.
Nice.
I mean, granted, my oldest son is in his 30s and my youngest is almost there. And, then it was my husband and I. So it wasn't like, there's small kids or really old people. But
family, yes, family.
We managed to stay awake.
That's great. And you're getting a lot of welcomes. I see Quiet Healer saying hello. Yeah. We got Ninja Kitty saying hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Grace. Saying hello.
Hey, Janice.
Good to see everybody out there. I haven't really, I realized I didn't make a new intro for 2024, so I think I've got to do that. I did start with some new graphics. I hope you like the new design of the thumbnails that I'm making. But I got to make a new thing. But I also didn't change the format. I still want to ask that same question that I ask all my guests, because I just feel like it's such a good question and it's a good little soundbite. And you've got a new name out there. I see Gigi. Welcome, Gigi, saying hello, Helen. Always good to see new people out there. And you know what the question is, but I'm going to say it. What is consciousness? What exactly are we talking about? What is consciousness?
Consciousness is an awareness of existence separate from, not completely separate, but it starts out as a feeling of separation of, I can be in this room and somebody I just saw in the other room still is there.
Mhm.
And we exist, and we're going to go to sleep, and when we wait, and we're going to wake up, and then we're going to still exist. And that's what consciousness is. It's that understanding that you exist.
Interesting. And I like the way that you're putting it. Like, it's the understanding that you exist in relationship to the other consciousnesses that you're
Right.
aware of.
But
Yeah.
initially, especially when you're a child, it starts out getting to the realization that you exist separately. And then it takes a while to get back to the
Collective.
collect
Yeah.
as a group.
Yes, exactly. Excellent. I love that. Excellent. So you're saying memories as a child, different perceptions. Is there a specific story or a moment you can remember where you kind of realized there was more magic in this world that we don't really talk about in the mainstream?
I don't think so, only because I've had an inner dialogue going since I was at least 3 years old.
Okay.
So that if something was coming to me from another source, from outside of myself, or from a deeper source, it's
Mhm.
always sounded like myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's only been over the last few years that I realized that, because I kept thinking, why can't I hear my guides? Like, I meditate, I do all these things. Why don't I hear my guides? And then I realized I do hear my guides, but it's my voice. It sounds like me.
Mm.
But
Mm.
but as we've noticed in conversations I've had with you, there are moments when that inner voice sounds much wiser and calmer and more peaceful
Mhm.
than
Mhm.
others.
Mhm.
And that's definitely that other voice.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And as you were saying that, I realized that's probably one of the things that connects us is, I've been having conversations about this with other people, is I don't feel like I experience my guides the same way that I hear other people talk about the way they experience their guides. There are people who talk to Archangel Metatron, and people who talk to Archangel Michael. I don't think Metatron is an archangel. People who talk to Metatron, people who talk to Archangel Michael, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
People who talk to John Lennon. There are people who talk to Arcturians. Different cosmic races, and to me, it feels like it's all the same thing, right? It's just the way
Right.
that
It's a knowing. It's the knowing. That's what I call it. It's
exactly,
knowing.
exactly.
There are so much that I question, but there are moments and things where I just know. And
Mhm, mhm,
I've been working on and trying to learn to not explain it, even just in my head.
mhm,
Because
mhm,
when I try and explain something, even just to myself, the vocabulary messes it up.
mhm, mhm. Right,
So it's
right,
like it's a sensation. I think
right.
that's what telepathic conversation is. I think it's a
Totally.
sensation. It's not necessarily pictures, it's not necessarily words. It's
Right.
just that sensation. So when it it comes out, as you'll realize that you'll have a conversation with somebody and you're thinking the same thing,
Mhm,
because
mhm.
we're not used to communicating without words,
Right.
but you knew before you verified.
Right.
Like,
Right.
they were
No,
saying.
totally. That's beautiful. It's such a great understanding of things. And again, that's part of the reason I think we love talking to each other is that similar understanding of things, and it's even as you were saying that, I'm like, oh wow, we're actually pretty lucky to be able to even describe it in that way, right? So now we
Exactly.
can understand it, but that really only touches the surface of what a feeling is and what that experience is like. Right, we're
Right.
only really barely expressing it.
I mean, it came to me. I've spent probably 3 lifetimes worth in one lifetime of just thinking
Sure.
and
Yeah.
thinking and thinking.
Yeah.
And so about 10 years ago or so, I grasped onto the concept of reality being all about perception and perspective,
Hmm.
and that perspective changes, but perception is affected by how hot you are or cold you are, if you're hungry, thirsty.
Mm.
And when it comes to vocabulary, what somebody says to you or what you say to somebody else, how it's received. I mean, every words are perceived aside from like physical discomfort, then there's the past relationship with those words or
Mhm.
the way those things go. So like we've had interactions where the word depressed throws me
Mhm.
off. And I finally realized
Mhm.
I'm misinterpreting the vocabulary.
Mm. Mm.
Depressed for most people means a sense of sadness. They're not
Mhm.
talking about the clinical depression.
Mhm.
And if
Mhm.
we had a different word for it for the clinical version, it would be
Mm.
different. And it's vocabulary. So you
Right.
will have noticed that you haven't seen me commenting much on Facebook for the
Mm.
last couple of weeks because
Right.
that vocabulary thing, I start to say something and I go, why? And I stop.
Right. Brilliant. You know what, Helen, I'm so happy to hear what you are saying because it's really such a key to happiness, I think, in general, right? Regardless of depressed or not. And Janice is out there talking about your guides speak to you in your voice 99% of the time. I wanted to catch up with that comment. Um,
Exactly. I mean, and I always wanted it. I was always hoping, oh, maybe, there's somebody, a writer or somebody that I connect with, because there have been people
mhm.
throughout history or that celebrities and stuff that I felt connected to.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I realize I've always heard, my guide, my inner soul, those
Mhm.
voices. It's just me,
Mhm. Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
kind of cool because, having seen doctors and stuff, if I said I actually heard other voices, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now. So
Well, you'd have a different outfit on. You'd have a white suit, and you'd be
yeah.
kind of cross-armed. No, but again, I think what you're saying is so brilliant because I feel like what was resonating about what you were saying. It's just I'm very, very see, even as I'm doing it now, it's like I'm very, very intentional about the words that I use because I understand the power of words. And so now for you, by not reacting to the dialogues that we have, you're like,
Right.
oh, wait a second, I'm giving that word too much power. And imagine you were saying the word depression itself. Imagine if really that word was broken up into all of its different nuances, how many actual
Right.
different words there would be, right, for depression. You were saying clinical depression or whatever, but
And
I
it's
mean,
funny because I really should have realized it before, because like as a teenager, before I had ever been diagnosed, I saw depression as meaning sadness,
right,
deep
right,
sadness. And
right.
so it just didn't work. But like, because I do listen and I do pay attention to what people say, and the concept of choosing to be happy or having control over my own
Hmm.
mind,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's perception.
Hmm.
Some of these things that I deal with are basically mess with my perception. So like I'll wake up and I'll be feeling really my clinical depression, low fatigue, no energy, not interested. I'm like, but yeah, there's always problems, but I'm not really upset about any of these things.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So why is my brain saying this is that?
Hmm.
So then
Hmm.
it's like, okay, fine. Well, so right now I'm looking at it kind of as maybe a misinterpretation of physical symptoms, because our automatic brain just like says, oh, that's what that is, and you don't even really get a chance to stop it. and think about it.
Absolutely. It's so funny because I'm listening, I'm having this conversation with you, and I'm breathing lighter because of the things that you're saying, and kind of almost like some expectations maybe that I had about, like, how you were going to feel, and the things you're saying are so enlightened and brilliant, and I feel like, and people say this to me sometimes, like, you should be working with people. It's like you have a way of expressing what you just said, everything that you just said, that I think anybody can understand, and almost like light up in their brain, like, oh, wait a second, that does make sense what you're saying. You know what I mean? It's like,
I had physical therapy today, and I was thinking, I thought at the time that they found out I had a problem with my neck and I needed the neck surgery. When I got to the hospital, I think I had even sent you a message that it was about so much more than the problem with my neck,
yeah,
because it got me out and it put me in a place
that
with
whole
people.
experience. Yeah.
And my physical therapy is twice a week, and it puts me in this place with people. And every time I go, I have a conversation with a random stranger, and they're like, "Oh, wow, I feel so much better." And I'm like, "Wow, I feel so much better." So, like, I am getting that a lot of the things I don't want to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't want to do,
Mm-hmm.
are because it's the only way the universe can get me out of the house.
Right. Right. Hey, whatever the universe is pretty powerful, right? Whatever it takes, it's going to do. But I mean, how, again, just listening to you say those things, I feel like all of this stuff should be in a book, right? Like, people should know.
I've
Like,
tried to write it, but then I'm like, you know what? There's lots of books. And what gets me,
people
it's
have
like
to realize it themselves.
the funniest thing, right? There's that. And then everybody has a different perception.
Mm-hmm.
And so what works for one person is not going to work for another person, which basically totally destroys the entire self-help genre of books.
Right. That makes so much sense to why, like, I've never felt like, ooh, I'm going to be a self-help guy. You know what I mean? Like, I just felt like, it's not for me. Like, I do want to help people, but I think just having these conversations, just this conversation you and I are having, imagine someone out there who is kind of like, oh, wow, I kind of feel like that sometimes. You know what I mean? And, like, if they knew some of the things that you and I have been through as far as the conversations we've had, and just getting through these moments, you know what I mean, of whatever it is, thoughts and things happening in your head.
Right. And like we connected through Facebook, and I know like social media is there's a lot, a lot of issues, and the internet can do a lot of damage. But if it wasn't for the internet and social media and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been considerably more isolated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what has happened for me is that in different places, I'll connect with people without knowing who they are, where they are, or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'll see a conversation, I'll just jump in, as people do, which is the problem with social media. And I connect with my soul people, like
Right.
people who are like thinking what I'm thinking.
Right. For
And
sure.
they'll say something that I needed to hear, and I'll say something they needed to hear.
Yeah.
And it's like, how is this possible? And sometimes they're not even in this country. They're someplace else entirely.
So cool. Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, I see you interact a lot with, like, Stryker Corbin, in the Spiritual Billionaires group, who, if anyone's out there, shout out to the Spiritual Billionaires. It's a great positive community of support, and it's just amazing to me to be in a community like that and just sit back for a minute and be like, wow, it's so easy to be loving to others. You know what I mean? And that's really all it's about. And being in a group like that really allows you to do that. It allows you to express that, and it feels so good. Like you said, you're doing it at physical therapy. You're meeting someone, you're having a conversation, and you said two things that were significant. You said they feel better, which is your effect on them, but you said you feel better. Because
And it's funny too, because whenever I go out, on the rare occasions I get myself out of the house and I go to the mall, or I just go out wherever, I always, first of all, I tend to make eye contact with the people I walk past and smile. And I tend to find people who I'm going to have a conversation with and resonate. And I will make one comment. especially if I see somebody who's uncomfortable. Sometimes moms with crying babies, like it's okay because they're louder to you than they are to everybody else.
Right.
And I just enjoy surprising people by being more than they would expect just by looking at me.
Right.
Because,
I love
especially
that,
now,
Helen.
there's that, oh, she's going to yell or she's going to be one of those. And it's like, no,
Right.
I'm not.
Right.
Because that's
Right.
not me.
You're the anti-Karen. You're like the superhero. You're like, you're like, whoa, this woman's really nice. I like this woman.
Mostly, but
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely get angry and everything, but that's usually at home. And I try
Right.
not to do
Right.
it
Right. Right.
outside. And I used to think it was because I was afraid of people getting mad at me, but now I realize it just takes so much energy to be angry.
Right. Right. I love, I love this side of you that you're talking about. And I wish I saw you out in public more often. Sometimes I see you and we talk and, we support each other, and I love that. And the quiet healer you made her smile. I think she's smiling. Is that a little smile? I think that's a little smile.
Well, now it's winter and I hibernate in the winter anyway.
Yes. Oh, me too. I'm a big hybrid. We have a lot of things in common. I think that's why we relate. We probably have had a few past lives together and been in the same tribe, and here we are in the same tribe again. So
yeah, but then I laughed because of the differences between us musically is like so drastic. Like,
what do you mean?
Well, growing up, my favorite music was Barry Manilow in high school. And
The music that we listen to?
yeah, right.
I got you.
And then it was like some pop. When I was like 5 or 6 when the Beatles broke up, and my cousin's like, "Oh, the Beatles broke up," and I'm like, "Who's that?" Because my parents had oldies on. I had no idea who they were.
Right.
And like at some point it was country music, and more recently I really like Broadway music a lot. So
Right.
my
my least favorite genre, but I
yeah,
can
but
totally appreciate it.
like rock music, I had very little exposure to unless it crossed over. Metal, the few times I've listened to it, it just doesn't work for me.
Right. You're like,
but it's like because I like people and I don't judge people by how they look. When I worked at Target overnight, there were kids there with green hair and the ear, but they were the sweetest people.
Right.
And overnight people were so interesting. Everybody was a little bit off. It was awesome. And when I connect with people
makes life colorful. Yeah.
When I connect with people online, a lot of times I don't want to see a picture.
Right.
It's just words. And I love that because I don't care what people look like. I feel like our eyes, because again, our brains clean everything up for us and do all this stuff in the background. It's easier to get to know somebody without seeing them.
Right.
And I just love it.
Right.
It's
and that's an amazing thing to say. I think there are a lot of preconceived notions and a lot of things. It drives me batty how much weight people put on looks and how they look and what they look like. I do a video show and a lot of people are like, oh no, I can't come on. And I'm like, I don't. Look at me. Like, I never wanted to be in front of the camera. I was always behind the camera for a very specific reason. I'm not even thinking twice about what I'm seeing on the screen right here as far as myself, because I'm cool with myself. I've got a good relationship with myself. And I think that's the key kind of to what you just said. Like, I think that's where people get lost. They don't have that good relationship with themselves, and it affects every aspect of life. That's got to be the first thing that I think people are taught, to look inside and not outside.
Well, I have to say, like, I see that I can find a bright. I really can. It's not always easy for people to tell based on what they see, read on my posts, but I can always find a bright side to anything. Sometimes it's really lame, but I can find the bright side. So, like, I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder over 10 years ago. But I found bright sides. First of all, with the depression, it made it possible for me to reach out to other people who are depressed, to let them know they're not alone, because it makes you feel alone. It's just another lie that your brain is telling you during those times. But because I have the mood swings when I'm hypomanic, which is hypomanic is not as hot. Manic is more delusional, more dangerous. When I'm hypomanic, I feel good. And I realized it was a problem with a disorder of perception, because I had this one day where I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I had gotten dressed and I liked how I looked. And like an hour later, when I was starting to feel low, I couldn't stand how I looked. And I was like, okay, I know for a fact that in 1 hour I did not change at all.
Right.
So all
Oh,
of a
that's
sudden
great.
I look heavier. I don't like it.
Right.
I'm not happy with it.
So you knew you were, so you knew what we were always talking about. It was in your head.
Right. I mean, I still didn't like how I looked.
Right.
And I still didn't feel good, but I
Of course.
knew it was a perceptual problem. It's still really hard not to react to it, but at least I'm aware of it. But that awareness is why, like, while tomorrow I might not like, how I look, I can do this because first of all, once I'm talking to people, I don't care what I'm looking like.
Exactly.
Because that's when I'm in my soul.
Because you're on, right? Exactly.
And I love connecting souls.
You are not your thoughts, Jilly says, and that's one of the things we say here. But in the same case, I will say, your thoughts are a part of you, right?
I was going to say, the whole point of the whole thing of my whole definition of consciousness kind of makes me part of my thoughts, but I'm not. But my brain doesn't always speak for me correctly.
Right.
Because we have that automatic self.
Right.
And stopping parts of that automatic self are really hard.
It is. It's absolutely hard.
I don't even know if it's always going to be. I don't even know if I've managed to succeed at doing it.
I don't do it all the time either. But again, being aware that, oh, wait a second, if I really try, I can stop. I can take a breath. I can even just stop everything and focus on my breath. I was actually gonna, before I introduced you, I was thinking of doing a couple of deep breaths so that everybody would get on the same page. I really love when we do that. Maybe that's something I'm going to incorporate into the beginning of my show. That's it. We just hit it. Maybe we'll do that before we leave. But just to get on this, just to center yourself, right? So I had a session with Wendy Gale, who was a woman who I had on the show a few weeks back last year, and she channels Metatron. So I had a session with Metatron, and one of the things that was in my homework was to just take a few minutes to just center, right? Just center myself and just take those deep breaths. It takes literally 2 minutes to take 5 deep breaths in a row, very intentional, lengths, and hold and release. But as well as I do, that can really just change your mindset immediately and immediately bring you to a place of calm. Jilly's asking if you can watch your thoughts. Can you watch your thoughts, Helen?
What I don't really, can I, do I pay attention to them? Do I try and school them? Yes. If that's what she means.
I think, I don't know.
I do get visuals, but
right. I know. I agree with. I think she's saying almost like, can you step outside and be the observer of the thoughts and be like, oh, that I'm not the thought I'm seeing. I see the thought, but I'm
not good at stopping thoughts.
Right.
I can argue with them.
Right.
But intrusive thoughts that just come, I drive my husband crazy daily because if I don't let them out, they will just keep going. Right. And I've tried writing them. Yeah. I have recently learned to, if I absolutely need to post something on Facebook that I don't want to post, I will make it so that only I see it.
Right. Yeah. No. And we've talked about that, and actually, yeah, I think, and Julie's saying no, observe them. So yeah, that's what she was asking, if you could just kind of step outside. But you're saying you can't, but you engage with them in a way.
I can't now. I can't yet.
Right. You're working on it.
Because I really don't think anything's impossible. I
agree with you. I agree. But I think, again, the way you're talking, always, ever since we met, I feel like I wish I can almost learn as much as I see you learning. You know what I mean? Like, you're constantly like, oh yeah, I was this way and now I'm this way and I changed this and I saw this, watching that whole experience in the hospital. Remember how I was like, oh man, I don't know, you shouldn't go to I was like, I was worried, and you went to the hospital and had the most amazing experience. It was great to watch you every day, like, oh, this happened today, and then this happened, and then it was like a series of real enlightening events. You got a lot of really good.
The downside is I still don't know for sure if the surgery helped
Right.
physically, but the
Doesn't matter.
experience was awesome.
Right, exactly. It doesn't matter, right? And even that situation with the chronic pain and stuff, you're learning how to respond to it better and better every
Right.
time I speak to you.
Well, I've always been good about pain, especially because when I'm doing, as soon as all I have to do is find something that I'm going to focus on that interests me.
Right.
So when I hyper focus, I don't get hungry, I don't get tired, and I don't feel pain. The downside to that was when the surgeon told me after the surgery, if it hurts, stop doing that.
Right. And when you
I'm not always aware if something hurts.
right.
So I'm looking forward to the checkup.
So you just actually gave me the most amazing segue into some of the other things I want to talk about, which is what you are all about, what you hyper focus on, and as Janice likes to say, what brings you peace. What is that part of your soul that other people can see? And for me, it's certainly your design and artwork and jewelry and resin stuff. So I wanted to share that. Let me put this up on the screen.
Yeah, pretty much everything has to be a challenge a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It started way back with baking. I could just make gingerbread cookies, but no, I had to come up and find a way to make them difficult.
Oh, new recipes and really very
well. Like I made gingerbread cookies, but I didn't want to use regular sugar frosting. No, I had to use white chocolate and melt it and pipe it on and just make it a much more difficult process.
That's you know what? That's so you're validating everything that I was thinking about before this conversation, because I wanted to talk about your jewelry in the same way. Exactly what you're talking about is the way that you create things, to me, is very evident. And of course I follow you on Facebook and I see you talk about it, but there's so much of you and so much love put into like all of these different hearts were created at different times, I'm imagining, and different thoughts were running through your head, but there's so much of you and your energy and your love put into each one of these things that it shows through. I think it comes through. I think
it's so much fun. And especially with the resin, it's a chemical, and it's kind of adding colors and powders and things to it to get the effect I want. Like that heart on the lower right, that looks like it's got a fire going in it. Trying to come up with violet flame hearts. It would be easier if I would watch tutorials, but I really don't like to. Unless it's something specific I want to make and I'm just not getting it.
Right.
I just really like to do. I like to try ideas that could pop into my head.
Right.
And I still get weird ideas.
I think it's very evident. So this image is a bunch of the different experiments, the different. See, that's what I love about this. This represents different moments of your life, right? You were feeling different things. Each one of these hearts was a different experiment. So, tell us about this one. Let's learn.
Okay, so this was the one that's on the bottom right. It's just all different. The light hitting it in different ways. It's I used the resin, and I used alcohol ink in purple, and I used a purple dye. And then I had found this iridescent holographic like powder that when I added it in, it moved and reacted like this, and it reflects the light in such a way that it does almost look like a flame.
Right. It's so beautiful.
And really, I love glass. I wish I could do glass, but I cannot.
Oh, it does have that glass quality. Totally.
Because, there's fire, and I have a tendency to have my mind wander when I do things, and it would turn out badly. So the resin.
Hold on. I got to let my cat out for the first time. She's like scratching at the door. Go away. Wow, that's a first on live stream of consciousness. She was just scratching at the door. She wanted to get out of here. Janice is saying, "I love the custom jewelry
Yeah, I was
pieces."
going to say, I'm so glad that she loved them. I forgot to ask you.
She is so connected to hearts. She sees heart shapes in every leaf and puddle and everywhere she goes. There's a heart shape. So when you started making the hearts, I was like, "Ooh, I've got to start collecting these for Janice." So we actually got to talk, because some of these photos I was looking at, I was like, "Ooh, I wonder if she still has that one."
I have most of them.
There's so many of these that are so perfect for Janice. And Grace is saying, "You're an alchemist, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary with healing energy infused into your creations." 1,000,000%. See, even Grace Grella can see it. It's so evident. All right, so this one is great. I love the iridescent powder. That's the holographic powder. This is a mixture of a few of them. I know I have some pictures of the
Well, the
purple
one,
This one, yeah.
this was my perfectly imperfect heart.
Yeah.
I mixed too much resin at once, which makes it cure fast. And the way it works is it creates heat. This one, temperature started going up, and it was in the 100 degrees, and I'm like, uh-oh. And I think I shouldn't have worked that late. I was getting a little tired, and I was rushing because I wanted things to happen. And so I kept stirring it, and I added browns and reds, but I added alcohol ink. And alcohol and heat are not happy campers. They don't really like each other that much. So it started to get real. I started to see smoke, and I was like, oh. So
wow.
I was like, oh. And I went, my studio used to be our dining room. So I just walked out and went to the kitchen, and I'm like, hey, babe, I just need a bowl of ice. And I came back, and I put ice around everything. But I didn't throw away the heart. I let it cure anyway. So it's got a lot of bubbles. One of the other pictures, you can see them, they like pop, and they make these little like indentations. But the way the colors came, and I kept stirring things because I don't know, I just hated to give up. It actually looks like blown glass. And I was so excited. And I can't duplicate it unless I want to, risk fire again. So it's that special, just because.
Well, also again, and this is part of what you love, and I love just seeing the result. And I'm so happy that you love doing the experimentation, because I don't think I'd have the patience. She says that looks so cool, and Janice agrees with Grace about you being the alchemist and the love infused. But what I love about this, the chemical reaction, is we'll see in some of the purple ones, it's a more liquidy, and even in the iridescent one, it's more liquidy, and it looks like the reaction like almost shattered the colors here, like they're all shattered the way they're.
Well, what was happening was, not only was it heating it up, but it cures, it gets thick, and it kept getting thick, and I kept like mixing it because the ink looked like it was pooling on top. But I was like moving it, but by moving it, it was creating more air bubbles. And it was like when you see them blowing glass and you see them like stretch it, and it gets like stringy, it was acting like that.
Right. Interesting.
And because I really don't like to do a lot of the same exact things twice, because I do have ADHD, so I need things to be interesting for me to do things.
Right.
Which is really bad. And I try and do boring things, but if something isn't interesting.
So let's take a look. Tell us about these other pieces. So what were you doing here?
These two, the reason the color sits the way it does, well, the one on the right is just mica powder, which is basically the same stuff they use for our eyeshadows and makeups.
Okay.
But they also mix it into paints. The one on the left has a piece of iridescent cellophane that I heated up so it would wrinkle, because I wanted to see if I could actually create a flame.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
And
so those are the Violet Flame series.
Right. And then it didn't look right to me when I finished it, but a lot of stuff, when it's done, I don't necessarily like the way it came out. But if I put it away for a while and I bring it out again, I'm like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff happening there.
But I do have to be really patient with the resin. A lot of times I have to do it in layers, and that is hard for me because I really want to see everything right now.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You have more. I'm glad you do it, because I don't think I would have the patience to wait for things to cure and then add another layer. And I've seen some cool stuff on YouTube where they create like almost like a 3D fish tank thing, where they'll do a layer and then they'll
Yeah, I
add
can't
more
do that.
fish in there. Not yet. Maybe one day you'll do some stuff like that. But I mean, listen, I love the violet flame representation you have here is beautiful. I'd be surprised if you still had that piece.
I did
Uh,
do something that was like beachy, and I needed sand. And you'd think
right.
on Long Island, oh, I'd go to the beach and get sand, but I didn't want to go out. So I had some that pink salt, that special
Oh,
pink salt.
Himalayan
And,
salt. Yeah.
right. And I had copper colored and gold colored mica powder, and I mixed them and I made sand.
Nice.
And it was exactly the color I wanted.
Awesome. See, there's the artist in you coming out. I'm going to pop up your website. We're going to go look at it in a bit, but I just want to pop it up on the screen there, so people, if they're interested in what they're seeing, they can see more jewelry and different creations that you have there. But let's move on. I think there's one more heart one. Yep. These are awesome. What's going on with these?
Okay, these were they were clay. The main part is clay. It's polymer clay. I layered the colors because I had seen this gorgeous photograph of a sunset
Oh, yeah.
at one of the Long Island Facebook photography group had
Yep.
it. And
Sun Chasers? Is it the Sun Chasers?
yes, and
Yeah.
what was better is the woman who took it came to my attention because her name is Linda Heller Wagner. And when I was scrolling, my brain went, I didn't take that picture. What is that? And so I contacted her and I said, hey, this is weird. And so like we communicate, but she had this picture and I loved the way the colors were. So I tried it with little tiny beads and I couldn't get it. I just tried it in lots of different ways.
Right.
And this was my attempt with the polymer clay.
Awesome.
And then I covered it. Put it into the resin so that it would
I love that. Oh, so that's how this has like that almost 3D glass around it. Look, that's very cool. Wow, very cool. I love these experiments, Helen. These are awesome.
But like I started with polymer clay initially because I smoked and I wanted, before I started with the clay, I'd had those little magnetic spheres that they were selling for a long time.
Yeah.
Buckyballs. I had them in all sorts of colors because I got them on clearance when they were forced to go out of business. Right. And I wouldn't stop playing with them to go smoke. Wow. So I'm like, okay. So then I was trying to find something else to do that would make me use my hands, that I wouldn't want to get them dirty, so I wouldn't go smoke. So I started playing with the clay. Okay. And the first few things I made were very large beads, and I made Christmas tree garlands with these really big beads. And I opened up my Etsy shop, and it was called Helen Lynn Clay Designs at the time. And I started there. And we crossed paths around that time, and you have mentioned a friend was opening a store. And so I connected with her, and I made up more jewelry than anything else because that's what would sell there. Right. But she went out of business. I did do some sales, and I finally started trying out the resin, which I had been thinking about for years. I just wasn't ready yet. It wasn't time.
Right. Yeah, I think to me, there's a much more of you that comes out in the resin stuff than in like the bead work. You know what I mean? Because bead work is, I feel like, I love the other stuff that you make, and but I feel like there's like patterns to it, and kind of, it doesn't give you as much freedom as the
right.
resin.
Well, it's not like I would actually follow an actual pattern.
Right. No, you don't. And I want to look at, so I do have a one of your pieces that's beadwork that I want to ask you a little bit about. But this piece caught my eye. You have a story about this piece?
Right. So there's a lot of companies that sell molds. And when I started doing resin, I found this one particular company that I love. I like their resin. I like their molds. They're called Let's Resin. And this is one of their molds. And I was just playing with colors. So I love green. And then the mushroom cap is actually magenta.
Yeah, I could see that. I was going to say, I love how the light comes through and you can see it.
Yeah, but it's so weird because I was like, it's brown and orange. So I started researching about magenta, And I found out it's not really, it's technically doesn't exist because it's not in the light spectrum.
Right.
And,
True.
you know, so yeah, so everything I do, I learn something about something else.
That's awesome. I love that. That's great. Let's see what we got next. Oh, and then there was a collection here. So I did want to talk. I see there was more. I didn't get the
Those are all,
individual.
those are real crystals.
Oh, even these hearts? These are not your hearts?
No, those are actually real crystals.
Those are crystal hearts. Okay, I gotcha. Okay.
My
so your pieces are these lanterns.
I don't know if my daughter and my son-in-law are watching. But my son-in-law thinks I'm a nutcase, and so whenever they came to visit, I would set up the crystals, and I have a crystal ball, and I put my tarot cards out, and he's like, "Your mom thinks she's a real witch."
You just wanted to
Yeah, so so every time they come over, I just need to, like, you know, mess with them.
I think you enjoyed that. He thought you were not.
I do. I love. I've always tended to be underestimated, especially my intelligence tended to be underestimated because I laugh at a lot of stuff.
Right.
I enjoy being silly. I'm never going to grow up all the way, so I learned to really enjoy just suddenly speaking and saying something really smart, or doing something that just is not, you know, something someone lacking in intelligence would come up with.
Right.
And
I was going to say, I think you
like
connect. I think you like when you connect with somebody through that because you're like, oh, that person gets it. They're intelligent.
Exactly.
Too, right? Yeah.
And I've met a lot of cool people, but like I found I have these little tiny, they're called balloon lights. They're really small. They're just these little round balls of light, and I put them in the jars that I made. So the jars are resin, and then there's my angel.
That's I wanted to talk about this piece. I think I have a couple of pictures of this piece. Let me just see before we get onto that angel thing. I think there was a couple of other things I love.
Oh yeah,
this piece. Yeah, tell us about this one.
Okay, so this is the mold was actually a tray, and then I had to before it was, you know, fully hard, bend it over something. And like I had a nice bowl that I like pushed it into, and then a vase I threw on top to try and get it to bend. And I really like the bowls. It's still something I'm working on, but like this too was a picture I'd seen of an ocean at night. It had the gold, and it had fluorescent light. I love things that glow. So I have like an aqua glow powder that I can mix into things, and I have a white glow powder. And so that's what I did is I mixed in the glow powders, which of course don't show in the light. But I was going to
say, I love how you can see in the light how the light comes through. You know, I can zoom in a little bit. You could see how the light comes through. You know, the white here and how that kind of lights up. It's like I love that quality to the resin. How it's like it picks up the light and the colors.
And it's funny because everything that passes my eyes, and people who do resin or whatever are always saying resin with alcohol ink and the sun is going to turn yellow and you can't use it for this, that, and the other thing. And I'm sorry. And I do. And the company that I get my resin from says their stuff doesn't yellow. And I have a sun catcher on my door that's been up there for 2 years, and it never yellowed.
That's awesome.
So I don't know if it's a case of because I just don't believe it will. It doesn't, or what, but
it's the intention. That's right. You put the intentions into it.
I really love the way light comes in and reflects off things.
I love it.
Now this one, I used the same powder that I used in that other heart. And to do the galaxy pieces, I have to do them in layers, which is really cool. Because I start with like just the clear layer, and then the next layer, I want to make sure that the side that's down into the mold is one side, and I work also so the other side is something.
Gotcha.
And then the middle has to be something, and it's much more.
So how many layers are we looking at?
Visual. This one I think had, let's see, 1, 2, like 5 or 6.
Wow. So, and then this piece kind of, as you were looking at it, you kind of, it evolved a bit, right? Is this
right? Because what happened was I was trying to make the side that's got the angel on it the same as the other side.
Right.
And when I added the colors, because I was initially looking at a picture of what they call the Crab Nebula from NASA pictures. I love using NASA pictures. And so it
Definitely
had
has to
like,
feel like
it
that.
lit up in the around the parts of it, and it was a little red around the edges and some blue. So I went to do that, and on the side that's just blue was the side on the inside. So as I was doing the outside coming up, excuse me, it wasn't working right.
Right.
So impulsively, I just added color to it, even though I generally, it doesn't always work out when I spontaneously do something aside from what I plan to do.
Right.
But I did it anyway. And the way it reacted with the red dye and the blue dye and everything, it just moves. And as it cures, I try to keep the tables level, but still things like move and shift. And sometimes I'll use like a skewer and just like swirl them.
Right. Right. Right.
And this is just how it worked out.
Yep. Yep.
And I
And
had just started watching your angel show with Brian,
yeah.
and I was like, oh my God, this is
It's
great.
an angel, right? It's amazing. We have an amazing comment from Deborah Rains.
Yes, she's one of
Helen,
my
I didn't know there was a live chat. So she's poking into the live chat. Welcome, Deborah. So good to see
Hey,
you.
Deborah, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Anyone who is on YouTube, by the way, this includes you, Deborah. If you subscribe to the channel or make a comment in the comments and let me know, I will ring my bell for you. I have a bell from Jilly here that I will ring out loud. This is not like a hypothetical, hit the subscribe and the bell. This is an actual real bell. I feel like that's some sort of gimmick of my show. But anyway, yeah, so you were talking about how you were just watching the angel show and all of a sudden like this angel manifested itself in your work. And this is a nice picture of it.
And I really cannot draw.
Right.
Like, I really, really can't draw.
I think that's so
Even
amazing.
tutorials, if I watch them, I can't draw.
So beautiful, right?
And anytime I've painted, it's always been more of an abstract kind of Bob Rossi thing. And even then, it's a little not quite there. So when I started being able to do this with the resin, like one of the sun catchers, that the one I have on my door looks like crocuses, or I was actually doing lilacs because I love lilacs. But it does actually look like that. So anytime something works out and looks like something else, or it looks like something anybody would recognize, I'm like so excited. And I know that's more than just myself.
It's great. I love that connection to the collective. And Hat Powser, thank you for showing up and also for supporting me in this lovely way. 9 people watching and only 2 likes. Hit the button, slackers. See, I love that. I love that community spirit. Yeah, I really would love to increase the awareness of this show. So if you are watching and even if you're coming back for the replay, hit the like button, share it, make a comment, do something that will help with the algorithm. Be a part of it. Be a part of the collective.
See, and that's why I always share your posts.
I love it. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much.
Because that's the easiest way to help.
It's so easy, right? And you are becoming a part of a community, right? Hey, I'm sharing this energy. I'm spreading this energy. I got a couple more here I want to go through. This is just a better picture of the lamps that you made.
Well, this one is a bell mold that I got just before Christmas, and I was trying it out, and it actually says "Love Forever" on it. I'm going to make another one because I want to see if with the that iridescent powder in clear, if it'll come up looking like crystal.
And I'm wondering, I don't know. I mean, I may have mentioned this to you when I first saw these. Like, if these inverted would be good candle holders. Like, if you made a flat base, could you burn a candle
holders? I have candle holders.
So you could put like wax in it and actually burn a candle in it.
Right, but like the other ones, the little lantern ones, they're actually, I call them lantern jars. They should be lanterns. That's what they were sold as for the mold.
Right.
But the inside is like an inch and a half deep by an inch and a half diameter.
Right.
I have
not a big candle.
Find a candle that would work with that. So the little lights are good, but decoratively, like I still have to make a yellow one, and then I'll have all the chakra colors.
Cool. Awesome. And then this was what I was talking about as far as some bead work. And I know you and I were talking about some of the jewelry that you make and some of the intention that you put in to the different stones that you
Well,
use. And
I had made blue rosary beads for my mom for her birthday,
Mhm,
and I had been looking for the larger clear crystal ones that are in this, and I hadn't found them, and I found them later. But I like this because this thing is huge. So like people who are having problems like what I'm having with my right hand where I can't feel things,
mhm,
the
mhm.
bigger beads for people who like to do a rosary or
Right,
even meditate by counting the beads, they
right.
would be able to feel
You
those
can
better.
feel 'em. Oh,
And
nice.
I
I
just
love
felt
that.
like this was a really elegant, unusual combination for rosary beads.
Right, right. I love the intention behind that, just to kind of give it the tactile aspect, and just be able to kind of feel it. Um, I actually had an experience with, I don't know if you know, Linda, from the Beating Hearts. Look up for Adam. Um, Linda Newson is her name, but she has a group called the Beating Hearts, Beading, and they make beads. Her son passed from an overdose, and he used to make these beads with like messages of love and light and stuff. And so they make these beads, and I had an experience actually holding the beads in my hand, just a very tactile experience that, um, for a moment, I felt like I was actually holding Adam's hand, and I had never met him, and it was like a very spiritual moment, where I was like crossing realms, but it was triggered by the beads and the tactile sense I had in my hand. So that's interesting that you're
Well,
saying that.
I really enjoyed like stitching beads. I've never been. I have like 3 different bead looms that stringing them has always been a nightmare. But then I
Mhm,
found out that I can stitch them by hand. So I had
mhm, mhm,
um, I had a couple of headbands that have like over 1,000 little tiny beads in them. But I
mhm,
wanted to do that because my grandmother um, used to do beading on fabric for women's
mhm,
gowns back in the
mhm.
early
Oh,
1900s.
interesting.
And so, and she was the one, my first craft was crocheting. So she taught me
Interesting.
when
Wow.
I was
Nice.
7, but I'm left-handed.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
she felt like she really couldn't teach me. So I got
mhm.
a book and I had to teach myself. So at 7, that's when I started teaching myself how to do
Different
things.
crafts, right?
And
Nice.
it turns out I found out like 3 or 4 years ago, I crochet right-handed.
Interesting, interesting. I love that. The last thing I have up here to share is really kind of, I didn't get a lot of your jewelry work, but I did want to share your website, which is running across the bottom of the screen, where people can see some more of your resin art and necklaces. Again, I've experienced some of these. I had bought some bracelets from you for my nephews. So some of your leather work and beautiful website, I might add. It was great to be able to help you get this thing together and really kind of have a
Yeah, I
place
was
to.
really proud of the way the pictures
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah, and you did all the photography, so let me shout that out to you. I love my ability, like you said, your ability to like just talk to people. I love my ability to just like inspire people to do what they can do already. You know what I mean? And I knew you could do it, and you did a great job with all the photography. I love to see you continuing to experiment with the photography stuff all the time. It's just great to have you as a friend and be a part of your life, Helen. It's been an hour. Can you believe you made it through a whole episode
Awesome.
of the live stream of consciousness?
Actually, no, I totally believe I made it through an hour.
That's awesome, and you did amazing. It was so great to talk to you, Grace Grella. Thank you so much for being there. Always liked, shared, making comments about how awesome the show is. I love the support of my
Love you,
community.
Grace.
Thank you guys so much. So, what do you have to say for yourself? And do you have any words of wisdom or love for my audience, our audience? You're a part of the community.
I I told somebody today that it's the connections we make and the information we share with each other that is a real purpose, and everything else is packing peanuts.
And packing
Everything
peanuts. I
it's
love that.
stuff to fill up the space.
I love that. And I just realized Hat Pauser said she loves to watch creative people like Helen. Me too. I do. And I just realized my microphone was all the way down here. I don't know if that sounds any different, but I just realized I was like leaning down to talk to it. But it's been such a great hour talking with you and some of the things I got to learn about you. And you know, again, I knowing you on Facebook, and kind of sometimes, you know, you're venting and you're saying
Yeah.
these things. I had to learn that, and you know, we went through that too. I had to
Yeah.
learn that I need to let Helen kind of say some of the things she's saying, because she doesn't mean it. She's just letting go of it by saying it. She's letting it go, you know.
I created an email address back in like 2018 that was an
Mhm.
Outlook. It was some like Dust Bunny or whatever
Uh-huh.
had Outlook. It was for people to go to vent. They
Right.
could send an email to it. I didn't check it, but you know,
That's
it was at
awesome.
a time where people really needed to vent a
I
lot.
love that.
And I
I
was
love
like,
that.
you know, if you want, you can, you know, oh, feel like you're yelling at somebody and send that email and say whatever the heck
Right.
you need to say to get it out there. And you don't have to worry about anybody trying, you know, giving you advice or
Judging
judging you
you.
or
Right,
anything.
right. I
But it
love
didn't.
that.
I briefly would periodically check to see if anybody was using it, and it didn't look like it. And now it's out there, and I never look. So
So what is that email address for anybody who wants
I don't know
to?
what it is anymore. It was a couple of
Oh, you
years
don't
ago,
even know what it is. But I
but
love that.
it was a really good idea.
It's a great idea. And you know what? It's like a digital version of, I guess, I don't know if it's a pagan tradition or one of these traditions where you'll write something down on paper and then you put it in the fire, right?
Great.
You're just like kind of, you know, you're getting rid of it. You're not holding on to it, you know. And I love that. I love that idea. That's so great. So I guess that would be your advice, right? Just let
Yep.
go of it. Don't hold on to it.
And hopefully over the next couple of weeks, I have a couple of things that are I found that are frames to make like almost a stained glass effect that
Cool.
I'm hoping to try.
Share them with us. I'll share them on my
They
pages.
will be out.
Anybody who follows, Helen, I love you so much. I'm so happy
Thank you. I love you too.
that you were on my show, and I'm going to put you in the back room for a minute. I just want to say goodbye to everybody else.
Okay.
And thanks again for being here. We love you. Janice says, great job. Tim says, obrigado. I love when he speaks Portuguese on my show. So I'll see you soon, Helen.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Folks, wow. I'm going to just breathe out. Remember, I said I wanted to do a breathing exercise. Well, I never got to do it with Helen. I thought it would have been a cool thing to do with Helen to kind of center ourselves together and get the show going, but she had it way under control from the beginning. So I'm super happy at how that conversation went and to see that side of her. I'm also excited about 2024. I've got some interesting things coming up. I've reached out to some interesting people, and I'm imagining I'm realizing that they will get back to me and I'll have some more interesting guests. But if I open up my calendar right now, next week I have Mick Thomas, who is this awesome stand-up comedian from Ireland who I met on Stand Up Memories doing the Stand Up Memories show. He was really freaking awesome. So I was like, hey, do you want to do my show? For some reason, I was driven to ask him to be on the show. And then the next week I have a guy named Ezekiel Funches, I think is his name, and he has his own mindful podcast. I think it's the Mind Expanding podcast. Hat Powser is out there reminding me that it is the year of the wood dragon, and guess who is one? Let's all guess. If anybody has a guess of who might be the wood dragon in the bunch, put it in the comments. Send me a comment. Tell me what you think. Tim is saying, muito boa show, muito amo me le mail. I can't read that Portuguese. I love it, but I can't read that. But thank you, Tim. And Grace Grella, great show. Helen, thank you, Helen, for being here. That was such great energy to bring to the live stream for my first show of the year. I'll be excited to see you guys next week. Thank you guys for being here. Maybe by next week I will make a new intro. Let's see. I guess I've just put that on myself to have to do that. So I'm going to play my old outro. I'll see you guys next week. Peace. I love you. Bye.